Good afternoon, everybody. For once, I'm not surrounded by absolute chaos. There's a couple of things on the table, but on the whole, we're not doing too badly on the messy old front. Welcome to Your Baby Club, Insta Live with me, the Honest Midwife. I'm hoping that you've got loads of questions for me and that you're going to fire them across to me. Otherwise, let me tell you what we've got going on this weekend. So we've got our Sing, Sign and Play workshop on Saturday with Amy, which is fab. So that's all about learning how to communicate with your baby, so stopping all those tantrums. So if you want some information on that, head over to Let's Talk Birth and Baby. Other than that, I'm here to answer your questions. I've had a lazy afternoon while I'm waiting for a question. What have I done? I've sat watching Grey's Anatomy, trying to crochet a sheep's head, which isn't going very well, but I have crocheted these. What do you think of these? Look at that. Oh, where are we at? Oh, little booty. I've only done one because I can't get the other one to look the same. Right, here we go. Let's go with some questions. 28 weeks plus 4, and at my 20-week scan they discovered a low-lying placenta. It's my second pregnancy, and with my first being an elective for breech baby, my consultant told me that I'm being booked in for an MRI due to risk of placenta being embedded into my old C-section scar. I've read into it and now freaked myself out due to the risk of threatening hemorrhage and hysterectomy. My MRI will be in the next couple of weeks, but I really would. Right, please don't worry about this because they're doing it as a precaution, and it's all, a lot of it is about in the preparation. So as long as they know if there is an issue, then they'll be able to manage it appropriately. So please try not to worry. A hysterectomy and hemorrhage are your sort of like worst case scenario on something like this. So please try not to worry. The likelihood is you may well need to have a cesarean if your placenta isn't going to move, but you've had one before. And it's likely that it's just going to be a straightforward experience. I mean, I can't promise it, but the hope is that, you know, that you've Googled it. Worst thing you can do, Google it. Honestly, I went a split fingernail the other day. Apparently I've got gangrene and my finger's going to drop off. It's not likely, is it? So try not to worry. Do I ask them questions about toddlers? Unless it's, do I lock them in the cupboard, Abby? Probably not, but you can try me. I can give you my words of wisdom, but they won't throw it at me. We'll see what I think, but I might not be able to. I'm currently 37 plus 2 and had a growth scan today due to having 2 measurements higher than usual. My baby appears to be measuring £7.9 and my baby appears to be measuring big at £7.9 and 41 weeks. That doesn't make sense. I've been booked in for a consultant appointment next week. What should I expect, and should I still have baby at the local birth centre if she's big? So if it's your first baby, they probably will advise, if it's measuring big, that you are on the obstetric unit just in case, and it is a just in case. So, you know, so that's one thing that you could expect. You may also expect that they say, actually, we would prefer you not to go well over your due date because we don't want baby getting bigger and bigger. So they're just going to keep a close eye on you. They may send you in for further scans, that sort of thing. But yeah, they're just going to keep an eye on you. I am 26 weeks pregnant with baby number 2. I keep getting a pain in my right breast. The pain is very similar to being engorged. Is this normal? I'm leaking a lot of colostrum, which is also different to my first. Sorry, I've lost that. First pregnancy, but the pain is really bothering me. I had a lump on my left side of the nipple, and if you gently squeeze it, it disappears, but come back after a day or 2. I tried to get help, but she just pied you off with A&E, and I don't want to go there because it isn't A&E. I think I would go back to your GP rather than A&E. I think A&E is a bit of a bizarre place to send you for something like that. But as you're experiencing pain, I would go and see that. But it's probably just breast changes as your body's adapting to pregnancy and getting ready for feeding. So it's unlikely to be anything to worry about. But I would go and get it checked out, but not at A&E. That's odd. Hey, hope you're okay. I have low PAPA hormone. I have had a leaflet through, but it's quite vague. So what does this mean? Currently 12 weeks plus 5. So low PAPA is a pregnancy hormone, and they will just keep an eye on you. It doesn't necessarily mean that anything's going to go wrong or there's major problems, but it's one of the pregnancy hormones that we look out for. It's quite common in IVF pregnancies to have low PAPA. And it may just mean that later on in your pregnancy, they just monitor you a bit closely just to make sure it's not impacting on placental function. But again, I wouldn't worry too much because they'll keep an eye on you. Abby is a little worried. He's a little heavy. He doesn't look chubby, but he's 2 stone 6 pound. He's 20 months and 90. He sounds delicious, Abby. Sounds delicious. Now it's funny, because my sister, I'm just not watching this. My niece, bless her, she's delicious too. She was quite a chunky baby, and she does like her food, bless her. She'd eat a table leg if you warmed it up. But when she was little, she really did look really quite overweight. But once they start moving around, they start growing, they just tend to thin out and just readjust. So as long as you are feeding your little one appropriately, I wouldn't worry too much about it. Obviously, if you're overfeeding, then you might just want to look at pulling that back a bit. You could touch base with Paula from Tiny Tots Nutrition. She does our, if you Instagram me a message, I can send you her details. She's our paediatric dietitian. And she may be able to give you some advice, but it would be on a private one-to-one basis. But that's something that you could look into. But I would say once he's moving around, running around, and at the moment kids aren't outside running around, are they? So it's a bit harder for them. So yeah, I wouldn't worry too much. Where did that question go? There's loads of questions today. 2 stone 6 pound. He's 20 months old. See, I honestly don't know where that is on the centiles and stuff. Your health visitor might be somebody else you could touch base with. I did a Clear Blue digital test 2 days ago and it read 1 to 2 weeks ago. How many weeks am I? As my first day of my last period was the 12th of January, so it's from then. So you're probably about 4 weeks. I'm 32 weeks pregnant and have been sent for a glucose tolerance test because my baby girl is measuring large at 34 centimetres. My GTT has come back clear, so I'm wondering what the next steps are. I don't have another midwife appointment until 34 weeks, so in another 2 weeks' time, and I can't stop worrying about it. Does this mean I will have a large baby? I'm so worried there could be something else. She is growing perfectly along the 50th centile line along previous measurements with an estimated birth weight of 7 pound, but now isn't following any line on her measurement chart. Right, just breathe. I think that unfortunately you've not been given any major reassurance because you're 32 weeks pregnant and you've been measured at 34. Now, there is a big variance on midwives and how they measure, and it could be the position of your baby. So it could be that on this particular day, if you think her thumb will be 1 centimetre, so she's put it 1 centimetre that way or 1 centimetre that way, it can make all the difference. So your next step may well be, if she measures you again at your next one and you're still measuring a bit big, she'll send you for a growth scan. But the likelihood is, in the vast majority of cases, those growth scan comes back and they say they're absolutely normal. So honestly, please don't worry. We would rather a baby was a little bit on the bigger side than on the smaller side. So actually, this is fine. It's not, when we have smaller babies, sometimes it's because of a placental issue. That's not going to be the case with your baby. Your baby's growing great, but there's just a bit of a variance. So that is not a massive difference. So I would really try not to worry yourself. Can I give a 9-month-old cow's milk? No. Kelly, they're not supposed to have cow's milk until they're 12 months old. So yeah, a bit early yet. Try and have a look. You've probably already done weaning, haven't you? But yeah, no to cow's milk. They can have cow's milk in food. So say you're making a cottage pie with a mashed potato, domestic goddess, you could put some cow's milk in that. That's absolutely fine. But in terms of their standard and their main milk source, no. Is having the sweeper form, I'm presuming she's going to follow that up with induction. No, it's not part of the induction process. It's a vaginal delivery, and it's the aim is to sort of try and aggravate the cervix a little bit and maybe start producing those hormones that kick the whole thing off. But it isn't you're not being induced as such. Yes, the first day of your last period, that's right, in calculating how many weeks pregnant are you. My labour, what are you eating? Sorry, you've just got to keep a handle on these kids. My labour didn't progress last time. Paracetamol stopped my contractions. That's really unlikely, Courtney. Paracetamol wouldn't stop your contractions. Would this most likely be the same round? It might just, I would imagine you've had paracetamol and then things have slowed down, but I've never heard that paracetamol would stop your contractions. But each labour is different. So just because your labour slowed down first time doesn't mean to say it's going to happen the next time. Did you actually go on and have a vaginal delivery, my lovely? Or did you have a cesarean section? So that'd be interesting to know. You'd before, oh, that's a question. A little strange, but I can't seem to find any answers. I had my little girl over 6 months ago and still have a slightly numb patch under my rib cage. It's an area where she used to have her foot lodged and I used to be very uncomfortable, so I wondered if it's related. I had mentioned it to a health visitor who didn't seem over concerned. I wouldn't be concerned. I think what's likely is that you've got some form of trapped nerve there or some minor nerve damage. That over time may well come back. It may be that it's just something that you actually get used to. I know when I had my cesarean, I had numbness for a real long time, but it does settle. So yeah, I wouldn't be too worried. My baby is 3 months plus and won't take a bottle at all. I should go back to work, but not sure how if she won't take it. Any suggestions? It's a really difficult one if we're starting to try and give a bottle at 3 months of age, because sometimes they're just really opinionated. I suppose it depends on who you're leaving the baby with. If it's nursery, I would just probably get them to try it. Maybe have a couple of days before you go back to work where they go into nursery, where she goes into nursery, and just see if they can get her to take it. I would say most nurseries and people that are non-related to your baby are going to have more chance of that happening than your nan or someone like that who loves this baby dearly. So yeah, I would give that a go, but it is very difficult, but it's not unsurmountable. If they're hungry enough, they will take it. Is having a sweep a form of induction? I've heard horror stories about inductions, more painful birth, stronger contractions, and not whether. So what I would say is try and book onto our complex labour class, which is on a Tuesday. So this Tuesday coming is the next one. And we talk about that. Inductions, don't believe all the horror stories. What you need to do with induction is to really get prepared and understand the process so that you know what's going on, and that can really take away some of the perceived horror around it. And the class 2 really talks in depth about it, so I would do that if I was you. Can you dye your hair white when pregnant? I love that question, Cara. I do love that question. I think you can use hair dye, so you can have your hair coloured. It depends. If your hair is my colour, I wouldn't dye it white. But yeah, I think your hairdresser should be able to advise, but most hair colours are safe and the bleach. I wouldn't use that. Not hair, hair bleach is fine, but you can have highlights and that sort of stuff in. It's a lot different to years ago when we used God knows what. It's just the way you phrased it. Can I dye my hair white? Is it black at the minute? On the instructions on the Clear Blue test, they tell you to add so many weeks on to how many weeks it tells you. Oh, that one on the pregnancy question. I've had my ovary and fallopian tube removed at 12 weeks pregnant, as I had a cyst on my ovary. I had to be cut like a C-section. Can I have a natural birth as the scars still so tender? And I'm now 20 weeks. Well, congratulations, Lauren. Sounds like you've had a rough time. That's a conversation to have with your consultant, given the fact that your previous surgery probably wasn't that long ago by the sounds of it. I would see what they would recommend. I'm nearly 6 weeks pregnant with number 3. I've had 2 previous ending in forceps. What are the chances of getting a planned C-section as both I think you've got a very good case there, my lovely. I would go to them and say, look, I've tried it twice. It didn't, it wasn't plain sailing. I had 2 babies that got stuck. I want an elective, and I don't think they'll argue with you. I think they'll be like, okay, fair enough. Pregnancy sickness, they say I am borderline HG and I am on metoclopramide, which is helping, but still sick a little and feeling sick constantly. I'm 11 weeks now. Any tips? It's so draining. I bet you it is. You could always go back if you're still really struggling and ask for a different drug. What I would probably do, Donna, is see how you go over the next week and a half. And if by 12 weeks it's not abating, I would go back and say, look, this is obviously here for the long term or for a bit longer. Can we readdress my medication? Also have a look at pregnancysickness.com or .co.uk. That's a charity that really gives some really good advice and support, because it can be really debilitating and horrible. So I would really have a look at what they've got on offer in terms of resources. I don't know what. Sorry, I'm just trying to find out where I am. Is it normal to put weight on around 6 pounds in 2 weeks, around 6 to 8 weeks pregnancy? Asking for my friend as she's worried. Assuming that she's not been overeating and eating for 2, that's just the weight gain that she's put on. I think with all of these things, you've got to look back and think, right, am I eating normally? Am I eating excessively? If you're eating and following your normal diet and that's the weight that you've put on, you're just going to have to go with that. It'd be interesting to know whether she's got any sort of severe symptoms, and if not, I would say just see how you go. I have severe itching armpits to the point where they're bleeding in legs and arms, especially at night. However, my hands and feet are fine. I'm 36 weeks. Not necessarily should you be worried, Darcy, but you should go and get checked out. You need a blood test just to check your bile acid levels, just to make sure it's not cholestasis, which is what we're talking about. It's not a place that it normally presents is under the armpits, but that doesn't mean to say that that's just not how you're presenting. So I would just go and get cholestasis ruled out, just in case. And equally, they might be able to give you some cream to ease the discomfort. Bless you. Oh, thank you for that, Laura. So there is a link there for the complex class. Any advice on how to change my OP baby's position? I'm 34 weeks and found out today he's back to back. Okay, firstly, Sophie, I would say try not to worry too much about this. We put a huge emphasis on this whole back-to-back thing, and it's not ideal. It's not the best position baby could be in, but they do turn, and they can turn. And I talk about this in our class 1. I don't know whether you've done it, about the position that babies are in, and maybe if you are struggling throughout labour with your back or the urge to push, you could have an epidural. But equally, you know, babies just get into certain positions and they do turn at the end of the day. I would try to make sure you're not slonking, spending some time on the yoga ball, leaning forward, that sort of thing. That might help give a bit of room for turn. But at 34 weeks, there's every possibility this baby's still going to turn. I'm 17 weeks pregnant, been bleeding since 11, checked by hospital okay, stopped bleeding last week. Will this cause me to have a prem baby? Silly me. Oh, Emily, be Googling things. It could be the position of your placenta. In a few weeks' time, they're going to scan you, and I would suspect they're probably going to say you've got a low-lying placenta. That's probably the issue. And not necessarily, it won't necessarily cause that, but if you have got a low-lying placenta, they're going to want to keep an eye on you, and especially with that bleeding. It's very stressful, but stop Googling. Don't Google. Honestly, my finger's going to drop off. Question on Facebook fan. Could you ask on the current live video how a prolapse would affect pregnancy and birth? Is this lady I spoke to yesterday? I don't know. This may be the lady that I spoke to yesterday, because it's not a question that comes up very often. But yes, so lady has got potentially a prolapsed vaginal wall, which does happen during pregnancy. It shouldn't impact your ability to deliver this baby. And unfortunately, there's not a huge amount that you can do at this present time before baby arrives to rectify the situation. But there are some exercises that you can do to stop things getting worse. And when I come off here, I'm going to speak to Michelle and say maybe we should do a workshop on this and see whether there is lots of women that are struggling with this. But in terms of vaginal delivery, you should be good to go. I'm 35 plus 6 and in a great deal of discomfort. My pelvis, hips and lower back are constantly hurting. Sleeping is near impossible and I keep getting regular Braxton Hicks that are not helping. I sleep with so many pillows to pad me out, use heat packs and warm baths regularly. I'm trying to keep mobile, but walking is becoming more and more painful. Support. I think baby's engaged this week and lightning crotch is something else I've been introduced to this week. Oh, bless you. I did a post about that this week. Although still very active, is moving much lower down. I had no show, so don't think I'm early labour, but there is anything else I could try to relieve discomfort. Oh, bless you. Sounds like you are really uncomfortable. We have got a pelvic girdle pain workshop, which is on the 21st, so it's next week. But if you are still pregnant and are looking, you know, maybe have 2 or 3 weeks, that might help you. Try and do maybe a bit of yoga, a bit of stretching, moving of that pelvis, but you know, unfortunately, we need this baby out. A nice warm bath, that sort of thing, making sure you're keeping your pelvis nice and stable, so not swinging your legs either side, you know, and get out of the car, move both your legs round, that sort of thing. A pillow between your legs at night. I had a C-section 6 years ago. I had cysts. I don't know what that is. I'm 27 weeks pregnant. Would I be able to have a normal birth? I don't know what cis is, so I can't answer that question. But a lot of people do have a cesarean section and then go and have a vaginal birth. Can I still have a water birth as I plan to with pelvic girdle pain? Yes. And again, I would definitely do the pelvic girdle workshop next week. That will give you some hints and tips. After my third baby, I had about a year ago, they prescribed me with iron tablets because everything was low and I felt like my heart rate felt low and problems still going on today. This occurred in theatre when I was having a section. Struggling to understand that a little bit. It might be worth getting your blood levels checked because it could be that you're still anemic and you maybe need to be back on iron. So that's what I would do. 8 weeks after having a vaginal birth, is it normal to still have slight odour with very light discharge? So the light discharge is fine. Some odour is not too bad, but as long as it's not offensive. If it becomes offensive, you need to get that checked out. And at 8 weeks, yeah, you could still be losing a little bit. Is it safe to use ibuprofen gel on knees during pregnancy? No, ibuprofen is a no for taking it, but wasn't sure. Topical is exactly the same, so no ibuprofen. No ibuprofen for you, unfortunately. There you go. I've answered everything. Can you see my Margot in the background? She's a puppet. I don't think I've got anything else to tell you. That's it. I've answered all your questions. So that's another Facebook Live done and dusted. As always, go and give me a follow at The Honest Midwife. I need to stop doing that, don't I? At The Honest Midwife on Instagram, and then you're able to ask me questions when you need. And make sure you show up following your baby club, and we'll see you soon. Sign up for the Sing, Sign and Play workshop. It's great. I was still breastfeeding 8 weeks after giving birth to my first and ended up having retained placenta. So I was still bleeding, sorry. Yeah, so 8 weeks after. So if it's brown and it's not heavy, that should be fine. But if you are worried, you do need to get checked out. That lady is quite right. You know, if it's heavy, get yourself checked out. Is it? Oh no, I've answered that one. Right, there you go. All done and dusted. I've answered everybody's question and I shall see you all soon. Take care, everybody.